This is A Line Around Your Thoughts, a podcast that centers on conversations with artists, writers, musicians, and creatives from around the Inland Northwest. And I'm your host, EJ Iannelli. My guest this week is Riley Anderson, who performs solo as RCA and is also the frontman for RCA and the Radicals. So welcome, Riley.
How's it going?
How's it going indeed? Because just to provide a little context to this, it was 3 years ago, I think almost to the month, really.
Pretty much,
Yeah. When we first connected in a slightly different capacity, and you had just released You Are Enough, and this was your debut single. I think you had been performing and doing some gigs around town, and you were doing some original material, but also some covers. Mm-hmm. And this was kind of your breakthrough moment. And so here we are, 3 years on.
Yeah.
What you been up to? What you been doing?
Pretty crazy, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild to see how far I've come. This year's gonna be like my craziest year for gigs and stuff like that, with just all kinds of shows, pretty much around the Inland Northwest, and also even the West Coast with my band and stuff like that. So, I mean, within the past 3 years, I've released at least another couple singles and then another EP this year as of February. So, pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting journey over those 3 years because you were kind of originating as a solo musician and concentrating a lot on your solo work.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden you started to acquire these bandmates who became the Radicals.
Yeah.
So just to back up and kind of retrace that chronology. So you released this single, and I think you recorded that at Panoramic Dreams. It recorded the recording studio.
I actually got it mixed. Yeah,
you got it mixed there.
TS The Solution. So yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, and so I mean, coming out of the gate, that's some nice collaborators on that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then you released Regular People. So I know that when we first met up, you had just released the single and you said, hey, an album's on the way.
Yeah.
And then a little while later, Regular People appeared. So talk to me about Regular People. And I know that incorporated a version of You Are Enough.
It did.
But yeah, talk to me about that album and some of the styles that you were going for and how that helped you grow as a musician, from beyond the single.
Yeah, totally. It definitely shaped my producing capabilities. Just that baseline of, figuring out how to produce stuff on Logic and figuring out, those sort of things. I've kind of realized that I just love producing. I love creating things, whether it's, a hip hop beat or, a pop song or a folk song or a funk song. So I kind of did all kinds of genres within that album. It was like You Are Enough is this kind of hip hoppy pop, upbeat track. You've got more
with this like high. What still gets stuck in my head is that kind of high pitched vocal riff that loops.
Yeah,
exactly.
That one. Yeah, it's a great song, and I mean for that being my first song, I was like, I don't even know how I got such a great song, but it seemed to work out. And I mean within the album, you got like Monsters in My Head, which is still kind of like a pop song, but I would say it's kind of a little bit more folky. It gives off more Nashville kind of a vibe. And then there's also My Own Worst Enemy, which gives more of a hip hop. There's more rap. Imagine Dragons kind of a vibe. So the whole album is, I would say, relatively pretty upbeat. Some of the lyrics are more introspective and stuff like that, but I mean the sound is mostly major, rather than minor. But yeah, that was kind of like my first stab at figuring out like, how do I create an album? What do I do? And I learned, so many different things, from promoting it to, trying to get playlisted and trying to, get streams, how to bring people out to a show. It was just a whole experience that I had never done before. I feel like some people start off in high school and they're, doing that sort of a thing, and they're having shows and they're writing songs then. But I feel like I don't know, a late bloomer in kind of a sense.
Oh yeah, but you're speaking to the choir here. Yeah.
But I've just enjoyed the whole process. So
So I'm interested in some of the specifics of the things that you learned because here we are in the Hamilton studio.
Yeah,
You're going to be here as part of the Emerging Artists series and season 2 of that lineup. So you're classified as an emerging artist,
yeah,
and there are tricks that you're learning. What exactly did you learn in terms of promotion that
yeah.
might benefit other emerging artists?
Yeah, I mean, it's always an ever-changing game, and you'll never know sometimes whether, if people are gonna show up or if they're not. But the best thing that you can do is make connections with people, and, show up to other people's shows, show up to, people's events. I would say, being a person and, being personable with somebody else is the best way that you can, get people to be invested in what you're doing as well, because it always takes somebody to invest into somebody else, for that kind of circle to loop back around. So that's definitely one trick I would say. Another thing that I would say is also just trying to be involved in the community. I mean, rather than maybe just a one-on-one thing with a person, being involved in different events or different stuff that's connecting the community.
Mhm.
So I would say that's definitely a big portion of it. Um, and doing things that are outside of the box that are different than other people also is another thing.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe that speaks to the album title you
Hmm.
chose, Regular People, and
Yeah,
just, being a person in the
yeah,
world and engaging with other people
yeah,
is crucial to the artistic process and
exactly.
supporting one another and collaborating.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, the whole album was pretty collaborative. Whether it was the people on the cover, I asked all different kinds of people if they wanted to be in on a cover for an album, and they were like, yeah, sure, sounds good. Some people were like, yeah, that sounds cool. I even, I think it'd be cool if, yeah, I don't know, are you doing a band thing? That's kind of a little bit of a sneak peek for the Radicals, but um, yeah, I feel like just being involved.
Yeah, and I had assumed that the people pictured on that cover
Yeah.
were the Radicals, and
Hmm.
I think you indicated that some of them did eventually come to be a part of the backing band.
Yeah, yeah. There's just a couple on the cover, but I mean, it's kind of cool to realize, from even then, there are people invested in wanting to be involved in the project. So
So about how much time passed between the release of You Are Enough as a single
hmm.
and then the album? And I should point out too that the album version is very different. It's
Yeah,
a more of an all analog version, so it's
yeah,
billed as an alternate version.
yes, hmm,
Yeah.
yeah. So the original version, very hip hoppy, very pop. The alternate album version is kind of a little bit more stripped back. Obviously, I liked the way I played. Um, You Are Enough live with my electric guitar, a little bit more reverby. And so I decided, I think that'd be cool. You could stretch it out a little bit, just have it be a little bit more dynamic. And yeah, I thought that that would be just a cool little spin on, the song for the project. So
And now that I think about it, we talk about maybe some tips and some tricks
yeah.
as an emerging artist that and this would probably also be applicable to established artists as well.
Hmm.
But even right out of the gate with You Are Enough, you had a video to accompany that.
Hmm.
And so there was this visual element. So you didn't just release the song in isolation.
Yeah.
How did that video come about?
Yeah. Basically, I knew that I wanted visuals for it. I mean, it's a very, I don't know, I feel like it's a lyrically striking song, and it needed, a visual element just to add just a little bit extra into it. And so I reached out to Rory from Snacks at Midnight, another band in the area, and he actually helped me out with the video. He did a couple little solo things with some different artists. Just I think it was I cannot remember his media company, but he did a couple of different things with some different artists, and I asked if he would be interested in doing the music video, and from there, we found some locations, kind of set the scene, wrote out, the idea for the video, and went from there. And he's got great equipment, so he really did all the work behind it. So
Oh, yeah, it's handy. And again, it speaks to the power of collaboration.
exactly, yeah,
But most artists they come out with a single and they say, "Yeah, there's a full length on the way," and it takes maybe 18 months for
yeah,
that to appear, or sometimes even longer.
yeah,
And Regular People followed
Yeah.
in relatively short succession.
Yeah. Mhm.
So had you been, how far along were you on that album when you put out "You Are Enough," and and maybe what transpired in the meantime to lead you to go to, for example, more organic or analog style versions of some of the songs?
Yeah. I feel like in playing shows live, I kind of realized that I just love live sounding things. So, and I love hip hop as well. So I just tried to fuse them together in a way that, felt new and different and unique. And so that was kind of my process for working into that album. And Regular People came out in like October, so it was like what
About
is it,
six
May? It was like
months.
6 months,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
about 6 months. And I had Expectations was my second single, and so that was I played a little bit more with the electric guitar, and it was still really hip hop, and it was pretty cool. So I moved a little bit more into that realm for the second single, and then the third I think was Monsters in My Head. So I wanted to keep it a little bit more raw, more like a live performance
Mm.
in a sense, to capture uh, almost like we were just having a concert in a coffee shop or something. So
Yeah, I'm glad you characterize it that way because that's the impression that I get. When "You Are Enough" first appeared, it very much seemed like a studio
yeah,
or even a bedroom studio.
hmm,
You talk about working with
exactly.
Logic and stuff like that, and I would very much categorize it as that sort of album.
Yeah,
And then, yeah, Regular People seems much more live.
hmm,
Yeah, you kind of blow up the instrumentation a little bit, and
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, definitely a little bit different. Some of them are like I would say Mine Worst Enemy and Expectations and You Are Enough are like the big anthem type tracks, whereas Just Do It, One Foot in Front of the Other, and Monsters in My Head are more of that acousticy, almost coffee shop vibe, like I was saying. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And what was going on at the time? Because "You Are Enough" is a song that's, a lot about self reassurance,
yeah,
as the title
hmm,
would indicate. "Monsters in My Head," you personify a lot of these emotions
yeah.
and, kind of have dialogues with them.
Hmm.
And so was there stuff you were working through as you were making that album?
I mean, is there stuff that, is anyone not working through something at some point? Yeah, I definitely was working through some stuff. I think I was just trying to find out, who I was at the time. Being a starving artist in the music realm and playing gigs and stuff like that, it has a toll sometimes. And are my bills gonna be paid this week? I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
figure it out. I got to plan. I got to plan further ahead. So that was sort of a like a self worth. Like I can do this. It was really like the album. It was for people, but it was also for me
Mhm.
because it was like, you know, I'm basically just describing like you are enough. You can keep doing what you're doing. You can, go after your art. You can pursue, what you want to pursue. Put one foot in front of the other, just do it. That's kind of like a very, like an anthem. That's what I wanted this album to be. So that's kind of the emotions behind it. And, dealing with a little bit of sad, a little bit of, let's just keep pushing through kind of a vibe.
Yeah, and that authenticity is important because, you say you're doing it for yourself, and I think the dilemma that a lot of artists have is when they start or feel as though they start making music or art for other people as
Yeah.
opposed to themselves, and then
Hmm.
there's this process of self-questioning.
Exactly.
So
Hmm.
you kind of had that early on.
Yeah, definitely.
Got
Yeah.
it out of the way. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I kind of went backwards. Like I did that, and now I'm like, okay, well, it's okay to like do something that sounds a little bit even more, more relative to today. So I feel like I did the whole process the other way. So it's cool though.
So we've got this gap then
Yeah,
in my mind. It's been not a gap to you, but
yeah,
in my mind, there's this gap between October 2023 and the
hmm,
present day,
yeah,
when you're back on the scene. I know that in October you were on Inland Sessions with the Radicals,
yep,
and you did a set list for them and talked a bit about the genesis of the name and things like
yeah,
that. And Monsters in My Head was a part of that list, and
yeah,
You Are Enough was a part of that. So what was going on in those 2 years between the release of Regular People and, say, Inland Sessions?
yeah. I kind of realized that doing the solo artist thing. not that it wasn't feasible, but I wanted to branch out and have more opportunities to play at different places. And so I realized, well, there's different places to play it, like as a band, rather than playing solo. So I thought, well, this might be a good opportunity for me to kind of branch out that way. And, I didn't really, I guess, expect to have, I guess, a band like to be separate specifically,
Mhm.
but really to be under me. Um, but as I continued to grow and meet, these different musicians and stuff like that, I realized, I don't want to have them be excluded, and I don't want it to be just RCA. Like I'm cool with being collaborative and having them be the Radicals and me being RCA, but we're putting together. So that's kind of how the name came together, and all of us are really really close friends. So the story of every single player in the band, all of us are have some unique stories, but most of it, I mean, the general consensus is that we're all, pretty close friends and we've known each other for a little bit. So,
And it's about a 6 or 7 piece?
yeah,
Or does that fluctuate?
yeah, it does fluctuate all the time. Obviously, for inland sessions, it was 9. We had 3 horns and then guitar, bass, piano, and all the things. But yeah, I mean, I would say our usual is 6. Currently, we have like a saxophone player. His name's Dave Noland. He's great. Um, he's a really ripping player. And then we have lots of different drummers. Like it just
Isn't that the
the
story of
drummer
every
thing,
band?
yeah, the
Yeah.
drummer thing is kind of an interesting thing, but we like all the drummers that we have. Right now, we just kind of have a rotation of 3, and whoever can make it will come and join us. But we've had Vincent Camargo come and play. We've had Dylan Hastings come and play. We've had Anthony Berkeley, and then our newest right now is wow, TJ Hoops. So there's one more in there as well. Aiden Medeiros, that's right. But those are kind of our core drummers that we play with. And I'm kind of cool with it being a free flowing thing,
Mhm.
Different artists bring different strengths, and they bring different, characteristics and cool qualities to the music. So, having some different drummers is fine with me. I'm cool with that. And then we have a bass player. His name's Darius White. And we also have a keys player. His name's Aiden White. They're not related. We always make the joke on stage. They also look alike, which is kind of funny. And adding Aiden Medeiros to the band and having him play drums, all 3 of them look alike. So it's kind of funny how that's worked. But yeah, and then we also have, let's see here. I said sax, bass, drums. I play guitar and sing. And then we have another singer, Tiara Duke. She goes by Tiora. She's another hip hop artist, R&B artist in the area. So yeah,
Yeah, and we'll as we visit
yeah,
Amavi, we will talk about her because she collaborated with
she
you
did.
on one track.
Yeah,
But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because there's still some
of
stuff
course.
that I want to talk about kind of in this era of the genesis of the Radicals,
Yeah.
because here you are a solo artist, and I can understand from an artistic standpoint why you'd want to augment
Hmm.
that because it opens up new
It
possibilities, new
does.
opportunities.
Hmm.
But bands also can complicate things
They
as
can.
well.
Yeah.
So, when you're a solo artist, kind of doing things and booking gigs on your own and
Hmm.
showing up, that's one thing. And then as you add more people to that,
Yeah.
yeah, that it's more plates to keep spinning, more cats to herd, sometimes in a really good way.
Yeah.
So the process of kind of scaling up, did that pose some challenges, or were they
Yeah.
all just really creative opportunities?
I mean, it was. I mean, mainly, I would say it's in the all mostly creative.
Mhm.
All the musicians that I work with, great people, easy to work with, and they all really are behind the vision and behind the project. So it's really cool to have them all involved. When I first started off, before the Radicals, it was actually the gang,
RCA
RCA and
and
the
the
gang.
Gang,
Yeah.
okay. A bit
So
like Kool and the Gang,
exactly.
which is very much in your kind of
Same.
R&B, yeah,
Yeah,
funk, yeah,
same
yeah,
kind of a realm.
yeah.
And we had a couple of different musicians during that era, and only one has really kind of crossed over, and that was Vincent, one of our drummers. But um, I felt like during that time, I had no idea what I was doing, and that's okay. I was just figuring out like what is a band and how do we do that? What's the equipment that we need?
Mhm.
I had no idea. I just kind of learned pretty much everything during that era, and that was kind of like I want to say that was That was, yeah, like ending of 23 is when I had released obviously regular people,
Hmm.
and I'd been playing around with the gang a little bit, and then we kind of stopped, um, and then started the Radicals in 2024,
Hmm.
and that was our first ever, like, I felt a lot more solidified with the way the band felt, and how we were operating. So
And so, does that end up resulting in a bit of an identity crisis? Because here you are, RCA, and as you've been putting out solo stuff, it tends to be more in a, I would say, contemporary,
hmm
identifiable hip hop vein. And with the
yeah,
Radicals, it's a little more funky, a little more groovy. And that's
yeah,
not to say that there's some bleed,
yeah.
um, but you know, is there a challenge with kind of maintaining these two different projects, or are you kind of happy to have some bleed between the two?
Yeah, I feel like originally I was happy to have it bleed a little bit. Now I'm kind of in a place where I'm all right with it being two different, two separate, completely entities. But I honestly I loved having the Radicals come and be involved. Originally, I felt like we were more on like a rock kind of a feel,
Oh,
almost like an
really?
indie
Okay.
rock,
Yeah.
with some funk influences. Um, and then I realized that I just love, I love Bruno Mars. I love the way he does his music. I love Michael Jackson. I love, Lenny Kravitz is obviously rock, but I feel like he's a little psychedelic funk as well.
Mhm.
He kind of throws that in there. So I realized I really like funky stuff. So
And James Brown
James
is
Brown.
another, yeah,
Yeah.
another name you put out
Yeah.
before, yeah.
Exactly. So I kind of I kind of lean into those artists, and kind of felt like that's kind of the way that I wanted to go. I also have heard lots of different artists in the area, and like there's like the Nightmares. They've played a lot. There is some different some different funk bands. I'm trying to
It's
reel
it's
out the
always
names.
hard
There's
to
so many
do it on the
names.
fly, yeah,
Yeah,
as well, yeah,
Cosmic Fantasy. That's
yeah.
who I'm thinking of. But yeah, so I just wanted to lean more into the funk realm. It's just fun, it's free flowing. I feel like it's just a fun genre to venture into, and I feel like you know, it helped me to branch out from just my almost like bedroom pop to being more of like a more of like an artist, and like I can solo with my guitar. It really honestly grew my musicianship a lot being in the Radicals.
How
So
so?
I just learned a lot more like stuff on my electric guitar.
Mhm.
I pretty much solely play with my electric guitar now with the band. So I learned like a lot of soloing tips and tricks, and I've learned a lot more songs, and how to play them uh, like more to the T. So I would say that's kind of like the main thing with playing with the band. I've just learned a lot more songs that people want to dance to as well, I would say. So it's a danceable vibe rather than a more introspective, chill, um, hip hoppy kind of a vibe.
Well, on
Just two
that,
different things.
yeah,
Yeah.
and on that note, when I think you mentioned being this breaking out of the starving artist phase,
Yeah.
and you have to think to some degree of viability. And as a solo artist, to some extent, you might be limited because you're playing coffee shops, you're
hmm
playing smaller gigs, you might be playing farmers
Smaller
markets, things
bars.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
hmm
things like that. And then when you get into funk, and funk is a genre, funk and R&B is
hmm
a genre that seems to me like it would be in greater demand and
Yeah.
universal demand more so than anything else because it is
Yeah.
such a crowd pleasing genre.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely like that element. I love seeing people seeing people just be themselves, out in the crowd.
Regular
So
people.
exactly. So I just really enjoy that. I'm definitely a people watcher. So as I'm playing, I feel like I'm reading everyone and what they're doing. It's kind of funny, but uh, I get lost sometimes just watching people. Oh, I gotta get back with the lyrics. But yeah, I just really enjoy the genre itself. I love to dance. I love to move, be free. So it's definitely a genre that uh, felt it felt more home to me,
Mhm.
honestly. So
Yeah, because when I think of the Inland Sessions
mhm,
set, you had Get Up, which is kind of just like an intro, but a really rousing,
exactly.
get out of your seats intro.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there was Get Right, which was to my mind, much very much in the classic funk vein.
Yeah.
And then I think towards the end of the set, you had the moment, which
Hmm.
was you talk about indie rock. This seemed to
Hmm.
be a little more kind of like amped up jangle pop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, it had kind of more of like, I guess my goal with that song was kind of have it look like Black and White by Michael Jackson. It's kind of like, indie rock, funk, but all, it's
a little
kind of
slash
between
on the
a little bit of
guitars.
both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So that was my goal with that song, the biggest inspiration for that one.
Okay. And then that brings us, after that inland session set
Hmm.
to kind of to early January, February, when you put out this new EP
Hmm.
that's much more in a hip hop vein,
Yes.
and kind
Hmm.
of back to this bedroom production
Yeah.
that's called Amavi.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the EP, there was like a listening party that you were part of that I was
Hmm.
really intrigued by. It
Yeah.
was, can you talk about that?
Yeah, it was honestly one of my best concerts. I was just like super grateful to Amavi, which is, despite it being the EP name is also the management company name. So there's a little bit of connection there. Um,
And Amavi
but
means
yeah,
love, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So uh, they've kind of helped me to grow as an artist and really understand having a management team and what that looks like, and somebody who can help me with my socials, but also be involved with some of the writing process, and also what the music sounds like. So I've really enjoyed working with all of them are pretty close to my heart because they're just really great friends, and they want to see me do my thing. So that party was,
And it was called Off the Record, wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
is that like a series, or was that
No,
just a
just
one-off?
a one-off. Yeah,
Okay.
just a one-off, just to hear the Amavi EP. So we worked really hard on that. We got all the candles in that little area. We got all the cool lights. I had my speakers and everything, and we had a DJ come and do a little DJ set before, and it was sold out. It was a great. I mean, it was just a great experience. It was like my first ever sold out show. Um, and it was at
Oh, that must be
It
a
was
good
at Kindred.
feeling.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just all the work and everything, leading up to it, and then having it really pay off. Those moments are what artists live for. So
And that was held at Kindred and Company, and
yeah,
that's in Coeur d'Alene?
Post Falls.
Post
Yeah,
Falls. Okay, okay.
yeah. So pretty cool. It was an experience I would never take back.
And
So
and this was just a listening party and release party. Was there, like some degree of VIP exclusivity to it? Is that what kind of led to the appeal? Because when we talk about
mhm.
promotion and
Yeah,
way to get folks engaged, because there's a lot of people putting out music and people have a
exactly.
lot of options,
Yeah,
both locally and otherwise.
yeah.
So to get them engaged, what was the hook on Off the Record?
Yeah, mainly it was just kind of a look at the record before it was out. We was like basically a whole week before the album was out, and I had already released Cloud Nine and Creepin' before, both great songs. Cloud Nine's very Post Malone kind of a R&B hip hop, whereas Creepin' is more R&B rather than hip hop, I would say.
And
So
so I
yeah,
can't yeah, I can't help but get like a TLC connection
yeah,
with Creepin'.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe because of the sonic similarities.
Hmm.
Incidentally, Afghan Wigs do a fantastic cover of yeah, TLC's Creep. Um, but yeah, I also wondered if there was a little Prince inspiration based on some of the way you wrote the songs. They
Yeah.
seem to me like they would be at home on a Prince album.
Yeah, I feel like this was kind of my uh, as the Radicals was kind of a branch out into funk, this was more of a branch out into R&B and figuring out, what does this R&B realm look like? And it was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard in the beginning to figure out where I wanted to land, and I'm still figuring it out myself, honestly. Because R&B is it's a broad genre.
Mhm.
R&B can reach into funk, it can reach into hip hop, it can reach into new and old. So it's kind of like you have Pop Rod. I don't know if you know him, but he does kind of like newer R&B. Or you have the guy who wrote Mutt, Leon Thomas.
Mhm.
He does R&B, and it's different. Both of them are different styles. Or Alicia Keys, for example. It's more of live instruments rather than hip hop elements. So I was like really trying to figure out where do I want to go? Do I want to really lean more into the live instruments, or do I want to lean more into the hip hop elements? And this EP kind of, it fell somewhere in between. I feel like as well. It wasn't, all live and all, studio perfection, in the hip hop realm, uh, kind of a vibe. So it was kind of like somewhere in the middle. I feel like it was kind of the same way with regular people in a sense,
Yeah.
like we were chatting about. So that's kind of just been kind of a thing that I've been trying to work through. Like, do I really want to go lean more into the live, or do I want to lean more into, you know, that solo artist, on a stage, my band's behind me, that kind of a thing, or just we're a band, we're playing shows, we're on the road, that kind of a vibe. I love both of them. They're both really, really cool. So it's been something I've been working through.
Well, and that's that identity crisis
Exactly.
because to me, regular people and Amavi are
Yeah.
very sonically distinct.
They are.
And so when you've got these different hats, which have the same unifying element in RCA, but you've
Yeah.
got RCA, the solo artist, and RCA and the Radicals.
Yeah.
And yeah, it gives you this opportunity to really inhabit these different musical identities, but I can
Space.
also see how that would be tough,
Yeah.
and you get into like, yeah,
It
who am
is.
I? What am I going to
Exactly.
be? Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. And, right now I'm happy being a cool funk rock star, and also being a, chill, I'm cool hip hop R&B artist as well. So it's fun to be both of those characters, and I'm happy to be both of them,
Now, you say
you know?
characters.
Yeah,
Do you
exactly.
find yourself taking on
Sometimes.
different personas? Because
Sometimes.
I have to say, the RCA
Yeah.
that I'm seeing
Yeah.
in the Amavi photos,
Yeah.
in those promo photos, is different.
Different person. You know?
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's interesting. It definitely leaves that identity crisis in the middle. But I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm sure different artists that went from bigger bands and went solo had that same crisis, and trying to figure out what kind of music do I want to do. Am I do the same stuff as my band, or
Yeah.
So it's just a journey, but I'm happy to be on it. I've had so many great R&B experiences already, and also, I mean, with the band going on tour last year was, I mean, one of the best things. I honestly, I love playing with a band. So whether if it's R&B with the band, or R&B, or I mean, sorry, funk with the band, I'm cool either way. So, but right now it's almost like I almost do want to make that distinction,
Yeah.
between like having a band and being a separate entity, not RCA, just the Radicals, and then just RCA, as a R&B artist. So
Oh, okay. So that's
so
TBD, somewhere
that's
down the road.
that's TBD. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
it could be something that happens.
Well, speaking of journeys and being on the road, you mentioned the tour. This was a West Coast tour just last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the ending of May. Our first show was at Zola, here in Spokane. Super fun. Um, we were just kind of getting our feet wet and touring and all that. I've played different shows in different cities and stuff like that, but never on this kind of a scale. We were gone for 2 weeks. Every other day as some kind of show, maybe a couple days in between. But I mean, we went from Spokane, we drove all the way down to Boise, we went to Reno. We kind of did that whole circuit all the way to come back up here. So
And did Amavi, the management company, help with that booking, or was that something that you were doing on your own?
no, yeah, at that point I didn't even know who Amavi was.
Oh,
Yeah, it
wow.
was just
Okay.
me. Yeah, it was just me last year, and I was learning how to do all the booking for that, and I've learned so much, and it's been so helpful, to like as a professional tips and tricks. I've just learned so many through that, and how to book, and how to select bands that are sonically similar, to me and to the band. So yeah, it's definitely been a really, really cool thing to learn, and just an industry thing.
Yeah, here I'm going to press you for another tip. So you mentioned booking bands that are sonically similar
Yeah,
to the person who's just starting out and is like, man, I got to book some gigs. I want to do it a little further afield.
yeah,
What would you tell them? Like, hey, you need this key piece of advice.
man. I would say, uh, one thing that I kind of did is I would reach out to the venue first,
Mhm, mhm.
and I would ask, hey, I'd love to come and play on this date. Um, this is kind of the days that we're going to be in town, and the venue would say, "Oh, great, that's awesome, super cool. Here's kind of the details and stuff like that. Like, okay, now what's the bill?" And I was like, "What bill? Okay, what's what? Okay, bill is in who's the band's gonna be playing."
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I'm trying to reach out to bands, but and it kind of left me and the venue in kind of a limbo, kind of a feel like, oh well, we don't have any other people on the bill.
Mhm.
So I kind of learned from there that try and reach out to the bands first. Reach out to the bands, get the bill set up, then bring your full show idea and your full tour idea to the venue. So
And were the venues pretty cool about it, or did you have your share of rejection where they were like, "Nah, we're just not interested"?
they're pretty cool. Honestly, each venue that we reach out to, I kind of carefully tried to pick the ones that I thought would work well. And might cater to our sound, hopefully. So most of them are pretty good. Some of them, it just takes a lot of time. I feel
Mhm.
like that's the biggest portion of it. They're getting so many bookings from different bands wanting to do shows. It's typically like a 6 month kind of a thing. So every 6 months, uh, that's when you're gonna be have your slot, hopefully, or 3 months depending on the place. So you got to be booking ahead, you know, pretty far. So right now I'm working on the next tour,
Yeah, so it
which
can't
is
have been that
six.
bad of an experience
Yeah,
because you're already
yeah,
working on the
working on
next
the
one.
second one. Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely something that it's hard to like. It's really hard to plan, honestly,
Mhm.
especially doing it solo. How do you plan, a 6 person band where it's just a logistic nightmare,
Yeah, yeah,
making
yeah.
it down there. Who's all taking off work? If we get sick, what's gonna happen? How we're gonna deal with all that. Um, if our car breaks down, are we gonna make enough money on this tour to keep going?
Yeah.
Are we going to have some really good merch to sell? Do we have money for that? All the logistics. So
Yeah. You're not really selling it to someone who's,
no,
who might,
exactly.
yeah, get discouraged by the slightest
Yes,
hurdle. Yeah.
yeah. I'm not selling it. I'm not gonna lie. If it
But
ain't for you, it ain't for you. No, I'm just
but again, when you are making that connection with crowds
yeah,
and outside of your hometown and you're going to a place,
yeah,
that isn't your usual stomping ground
yeah.
and you're making that connection with the crowd, that must be the reward.
Yeah, that is the reward. Making the connections, meeting people. Even, I mean, just the band experience going on the road, you know, there's going to be tough moments, but a lot of it was just, I mean, I'm out here, we're on a trip, we're having a fun vacation, with friends, we're seeing new cities that we've never seen before, having new experiences, doing, all the different things, having new food. So it's just it's an adventure, you know?
Mhm.
You're going on an adventure with your friends, and sometimes there's lots of crazy hurdles and stuff like that, but you can make it through and you have a good time. So I mean, I wouldn't trade it. So
And then looking ahead, so we've got Amavi, which is just a few months behind us.
yeah,
What sort of new material are we looking at?
yeah, I'm leaning more into doing some more singles,
Hmm.
less of like a specific big project solo wise, I would say.
Hmm.
So I'm planning on a few singles throughout the summer, just some summer bops, and then I am hoping to have a soul EP or maybe even an album with the band. We have lots of songs that we've already written and stuff like that, and we
And
just need to
Lakeshore
get it
Drive is
planned.
out there.
Yeah,
That's billed as an RCA and the Radicals
it
number.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's our first song that we've put out, our first single, and so that's gonna be tied in a little bit to that. So we're working on the realms of soul and funk. So that's kind of the realm that we're going for, and how we want to put our art out into the world. So
Cool. And then you've got some live gigs where people can catch you. So you've got the one here
yep,
on April 24th, again, as part of this emerging artist series.
that's
And
right.
then you've got another one, Big Dipper,
Big
that's
Dipper.
coming up when?
Yeah, it's I want to say it's May 9th.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And then we have another one that's coming up in June as well at Brick West. It's like the first weekend in June.
Oh, so that'll be a nice summer jam
Yeah,
concert. Yeah.
it's gonna be really fun. Yeah, it's gonna be big band, just a good time. And The Big Dipper show, we've never played at the Big Dipper. We've played at the Chameleon. We've played at um, the one connected to the Knitting Factory.
Hmm.
What that one? I can't remember what that. Do you know what the name of that one is?
It is escaping
It's
my,
gone.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The District.
There we
The
go. There we
District.
go.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we played at the District. We played Zola. We played pretty much all the little areas, but we've never played the Big Dipper before. And I would say it's more of a rock metal sort of a scene.
Hmm.
Uh, but we're excited to be able to bring some funk in there. And there's definitely been some different bands, indie type stuff that rolls through there. So we've always wanted to play there. It's a all ages venue here in Spokane. So I mean, we're just pretty excited about it. So
Cool. And for the concert here, can you give us a preview of some of that set list? Are we going to see, some of the songs that may have made an appearance on Inland Sessions? But
mhm.
for example, is anything from Amavi going to get a Radicals twist on this set list?
Yeah, definitely for sure. Yeah, obviously we love playing Creepin' as a band. And so it gives off a very, I don't know, it's a swanky club kind of a vibe,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is completely different, obviously from the track itself online. But it's really, really fun. So that one's definitely going to be one of the songs that's going to be in the set list. But yeah, we have some, those new songs that I was talking about that we want to kind of preview those before they're out at this cool studio. So
Excellent. Well, before you get to that and get to all those
of
performances, you've
course,
got to make it through the closing round of this interview, which is the lightning round. And
oh,
so I don't know
here we
if
go.
you, yeah, I hope you're braced for this.
All right, here we go.
So the first question, there's a series of 4 questions.
Okay,
The first one is always an either or.
okay,
Okay, so you're going to have to figure out which one you want to go with.
all
Would
right.
you rather be trapped in a romantic comedy
Oh man.
with your enemies
Okay.
or trapped in a horror movie with your friends? So we
Oh
got
man.
rom-com with enemies, horror movie with friends.
I feel like it sounds crazy, but horror movie with friends. I don't know if I could sit through that whole romantic comedy.
Yeah, and I guess it wouldn't be too much different from
Yeah.
touring and being in the tour van
Yeah.
for extended periods. So
Exactly. At least we're going through it together.
you find a way to make the best of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, cool. I thought that was going to pose you with a dilemma, but then now that we've talked, I can see why you would side one way. Second question:
All right.
what celebrity do you most identify with?
Oh, that's tough.
And I'm giving
Yeah.
you the whole pantheon of celebrities, so you can pick someone from the movies, you can pick someone from music, whoever you want. Fashion.
Man, yeah, that's tough. I'd probably say a couple of different people
Okay.
if I'm going to be honest. I'd probably say Lenny Kravitz. He's just got unlimited style. He's just a great guy. He loves rock music. He's a rock star, so it's like he's got style and all that, but he seems like also a genuine down to earth guy,
Hmm.
So obviously I relate a lot to him. I feel like for an actor, I feel like Chadwick Boseman.
Okay.
Rip. But
Yeah.
I don't know. He's so versatile with his roles, and also on top of that, he can just be like the chillest guy in the room. So
Very cool. Okay. Chadwick Boseman, Lenny Kravitz.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't really take find fault with either of those. The next one we get a little personal.
All right,
How do you like to celebrate your birthday?
man.
Do you do a big party? Do you
Yeah.
keep it kind of intimate?
It depends on the year, honestly. I feel like some years I'm like I don't really care. I'm happy with chilling at my house, with a couple friends, playing some video games or something like that, or writing some music, listening to some music. But I'm down with a big birthday too. Like, let's go out, let's have a good time. I guess it kind of plays on. I feel like it plays on me as a music artist too. I'm cool with doing the chill stuff, but also big moments are awesome too. So I'm pretty adaptable.
So we
Pretty
we
flexible.
see the solo bedroom musician,
Yeah,
and we also see the crowd pleasing funk guy as
yeah,
well.
yeah, exactly.
All right. So the last one is a two-parter.
Okay.
Do you consider yourself more of an album or a song guy? So do you kind of view music in terms of albums and as that, kind of cohesive whole, or
hmm
just the more a la carte song based?
More album, I think.
Okay.
I I knew when I put out "You Are Enough" that I just wanted to do more rather than just a single. And I love singles. Singles are cool, but I don't know. I feel like my brain works towards like, how can I create this masterpiece? I feel like more of a painter.
Hmm. Hmm.
I can sit up, at an easel, and I'm gonna, however many hours it's gonna take, I'm gonna create this really, really cool project. And there's gonna be lots of different elements, different pieces. So that's why I feel like, I'm more of an artist uh, than, like a singer or even a band. I feel like I'm an artist.
Hmm.
That's what I feel like.
Okay, so the second part of that is maybe you made it easier on yourself. What album could you listen to on repeat and not get tired of?
Mm,
And I feel like
yeah,
that's an easier one than what song,
it
because it's
is.
it's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
easy to get tired of a particular song, whereas an album kind of gives you a little more variety.
yeah. That's true. Um, I definitely have a couple of different albums that I like to listen to.
What
Currently,
what would be your
yeah,
desert island though?
Desert
Yeah,
Island.
your desert island.
Yeah,
You've got a CD player that fortunately has an infinite supply of batteries, and you've got one album, and that's what you've got on repeat. What's that going to be?
Exodus.
Y-
Yeah,
Do
by
tell.
Bob Marley. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that would probably be it. It's kind of been growing on me a lot lately, reggae. I don't know why, but I really, really enjoy it. I never really grew up listening too much to reggae, but I listened to pretty much the whole album through. And I mean, all the songs, they have just like, it's just made so perfectly
Mhm.
that I don't know, I just can't seem to get tired. Once I heard Jam and I was like, I just want to keep listening to that one. Turn Your Lights Down Low. Oh, yeah, obviously I'm going to be listening to that one. Natural Mystic. Yeah, all of it. So,
So are we also getting maybe a preview of the future direction? So
a
we're gonna,
third
yeah,
direction here.
third direction.
Ah, man. I'm cool with doing a little bit of reggae, but I don't think I'm, 100% a reggae artist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Riley, thank you so much for meeting me in the Hamilton studio today and talking about all the stuff you're up to as RCA and all the stuff that you're up to with the Radicals as well.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.